Hi, I'm Gina Friedman Armstrong, and I'd like to welcome you to the Pivoting series from One Cancer Place. This series is all about people who've turned a cancer diagnosis into an opportunity for growth and finding purpose. Today, I'm talking with Erica Hanson Brown. She's a 20 plus year stage 3 colon cancer survivor and the founder of One Cancer Place. I know her very well, and I'm very excited to have her tell her pivoting story because it's a wonderful story of advocacy and what she's doing in our cancer world. So, Erica, welcome.
Thank you, Gina. It's really nice to be here today with you and to share this experience of the transformational opportunities that can happen to those of us lucky enough to have had a cancer diagnosis and to survive it.
Would you tell us about your cancer diagnosis and how you felt when you first got that news that you had cancer, colon cancer?
Well, for me, it was kind of a relief because, and that may sound strange, it was a relief because I finally got a diagnosis. I was misdiagnosed and had medical errors attended upon my whole journey of diagnosis for 18 months. So I remember this sense of relief that finally something was going to be done because frankly, I knew I was dying and people were telling me that there was nothing wrong with me because really of failures in the diagnostic clinic. I have to let you know that I was really sick by the time I was diagnosed. And then, of course, I was launched immediately into this. Oh dear, what am I going to do now? And the way my medical team handled it was, along with the diagnosis, they told me the steps I was going to be taking. So I had something to think about right away, which was good. I mean, what I had in front of me the next day was a CT scan, my very first CT scan. And that was followed with an appointment with the surgeon who was going to do my surgery. And that was engaged in that discussion was a decision I had to make about whether or not my spleen would be removed, because truly they suspected that my cancer was metastatic, and I had decisions to make before the surgery that were life-changing decisions. But immediately I started wanting to learn everything I could about colon cancer. Of course, I wanted to see the statistics. They weren't giving me a stage, so I had nothing to go really on. They didn't have the stage until after surgery. So I didn't know that they were calling me metastatic going into surgery. Had I known that I was considered stage 4 and possibly terminal at that point, I would have been furious. I know that. But I can say that, because I should have been diagnosed a year earlier. And so my tumor had lot more opportunity to grow, or tumors possibly. It was a feeling of relief and anticipation for getting it surgically removed as soon as possible. I felt a lot better as soon as I had that surgery, which was approximately the next week after the diagnosis. So my period of transformation from an ordinary person into a cancer patient and a cancer student started then with a diagnosis. I didn't start thinking immediately about being a student, but I was. I
Mhm.
started literally naming myself a student later on in my process. Um, Probably, in the period after my treatment had completed, and I was starting to look around and around me and wanting to know more and feeling curiosity about what the landscape looked like and who the people on that landscape were. And I remember very distinctively knowing that I think I know that I am a corporate headhunter by background. So knowing a business sector is in my genes, basically. And this represented a new business sector for me that I needed to get to know as fast as possible. And for me, the personal reason for it was I needed to know who the best docs were so that when I called them out of need, they would know who I was and would call me back. As I looked over the landscape and saw how little there was, this was in 2003, there was basically nothing for a patient to find so that I could find other patients. So I knew I had a lot of work to do in order to take care of myself.
Yeah,
Me.
no. What did you do then to actually put that into action? How did you find people? How did you make those connections?
Well, back in that, it was about in 2003, beginning of 2004. Uh, I'm now 6 months out of finishing treatment. I was diagnosed in 2002. I felt this with the completion of the chemo treatment that I had, I felt like dropped like a rock by the system. And I recognized I didn't really know any patients. And I also didn't know how to find any patients. I remember I decided to invite Molly McMaster. She had founded the Colon Club, and I thought she was extraordinary in her leadership and in her community building. However, she was targeting a market of the young because she was in her 20s when she was diagnosed. So she was reaching out to young people. And I was 58 years old, not necessarily young that stage, but um, I saw her as a leader and I reached out to her and I had her come to Denver and speak to a group of business people that wanted to support me in my recovery. That's when she told us about her idea of designing and creating the colander, which was the well-known calendar that she put together of colon cancer patients or colorectal cancer patients. Anyway, that started me, and it was somebody on her team who asked me if I knew about the colon list. In that group, I started posting my questions and my story, and pretty soon I was invited to come to DC. Did I want to come to DC and advocate and to participate in the creation of a new colorectal cancer group that would enact public policy on behalf of colorectal cancer people? That original group we had it in like 2005, I think. I went to DC for the first time on a public policy advocacy trip, and we had our very first meeting of what today is Fight Colorectal Cancer. And there were about 7 of us, but I started meeting people there, and I started seeing the landscape of and it was sparsely populated. In our space, the colorectal cancer space, there was only the Colon Cancer Alliance, and that's what it was called then. Today it's been renamed to better reflect the entire community of colorectal cancer patients. And the Colon Club, Molly's Colon Club. So I started thinking, there's a need for patients to find one another. So I started being invited more and more to conferences and to conversations around patient advocacy and some of the glaring gaps in the offerings to us. And I was invited to more conferences and I met more people, and I kept saying, I have to start a community. No one else is going to do it. I'm going to do it. So it took me a few years, as you know. I was on, I think it was the colon list, somebody's listserv, where there was a woman from Colorado where I was. Now, by this time, I knew there were over 3,000 colon cancer, not even colorectal, colon cancer people in the state of Colorado every year, new ones. And there was community, obviously, that wasn't connecting or being connected. And I saw this posting of an email to that listserv, and it basically said her name was Cynthia. She said, an RN and I'm the mother of three little girls that I'd like to see grow up and get married. And then she said, I'm a stage 4 colon cancer patient. And she said, I work in the field and there is no way for me to find another patient. And she ended her email with, isn't there anyone in Colorado
Mhm.
who is another colon cancer patient? Well, with that, I threw down the gauntlet because it was like, that's it, that's enough. I've heard this enough. And in Cynthia's honor, I began to take seriously the idea of building a community. And it's that when I started the legal process to start a company, a Colorado company that I called Colontown. So times were tough in 2009, and I was house sitting. I moved into the house sitting market so that I didn't have rent to pay, and I could full board take my 100% of my time and build Colontown, which is what I started to do then. I believe I launched it in 2010. I launched it on Facebook, but as one group, one secret group on Facebook. But I knew immediate success upon starting that first group by the reaction from some of the colorectal patients that I, by that time, knew. And it was
Mhm.
an overwhelming, yes, we want this. We want a place to connect with one another. That launched me. All of this was a process in my transformation into being a community advocate, basically. And in my learning process, I continued to build Colontown until 2020, when I left the organization and other people took it over. It's still out there, but I had on my mind that this was my concept was had a far bigger idea for patients, and that's the generating idea around One Cancer Place, which is to bring together cancer patients of all for all tumor types, pan tumor, as we say in the jargon, in the foreign language called cancer. It's a separate group for each type of cancer experienced by cancer patients.
Mhm. Um, Looking back, just reflecting on everything, how do you feel about the choices that you made and to take that active role in learning more about your health and helping others with that?
We owe it to ourselves
Mhm.
to become students of our disease and to learn the landscape that surrounds the practice of medicine and healthcare around our disease. The developments in treatments, the developments in diagnostics, and further testing. We need to know everything that is being done.
Why do you feel that way?
Oh, I feel that way because people that don't do that are more likely to die. And
Mhm.
this is a survival tactic. I think my favorite, unfavorite number, and that's 130,000 Americans annually dying unnecessarily of their cancer because they have not done this,
Mm.
getting treatments that may not be suited for their particular cancer, and the fact that that patient probably never knows.
Mhm.
I don't think a lot of people are familiar with this figure, which to me is horrifying that so
Right.
many Americans die unnecessarily every year.
But what do you feel has been the most fulfilling part of everything that you've gone through with this? Whether it be in your personal growth or in the work that you're doing to help others.
My mother told me something and showed me something when I was younger and before she departed this world, and that was that service is where it is. That's the juice of life and the juice of a successful life. I didn't really believe her. I watched her win over and win accounts and win in every way professionally because she did that. She was generous to a fault with her capabilities, her money, her mind, and her sharing of her expertise. And I saw that work for her. And yet, you could knock me over with a feather if I said that I really operated in that way prior to my cancer, which I view as my own experience as a transformative experience. Um, Cancer woke me up basically, and it woke me up to service. What it what I didn't know at the time was that service would also probably help me survive longer. Finally, I got my stage, which is 3C, too many lymph nodes that were infected. My cancer was on its way to killing me. And it got arrested on August 26th of 2002. It really got arrested by the surgery and the chemo that cleaned it up afterwards for 6 months. But it was on its way to killing me. And most people I know with my diagnosis recur and die, recur, progress, die. And I have been NED or having experienced no evidence of disease ever since really my surgery. And so I believe that the transformative experience I had that launched me into wanting to provide community or be in a community. That was my first impulse. But then at the by the same token, in order to be in community, I had to create and lead community. I believe that in so doing and providing service to others, that's one of the reasons I'm alive today. I
Always tell
believe.
me, in serving others, you help yourself. That's
And this is something I'm, as you know, a very proud member, uh, a recovered alcoholic in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the major premise of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is so beautiful, is if you want to stay sober, help another alcoholic. Well, you can say the same thing, I believe, about cancer. If you want to stay in NED, help another cancer patient or 10. And you'll continue to learn, and B, you'll feel better, and C, you'll actually be helping other people. And it never ends. The rewards are so everlasting, evergreen, and living this. And soon you realize that there's a purpose in all of this. And, I have come to believe that, my goodness, my whole life prior to having cancer was in preparation for having cancer and then for being able to help other patients with cancer. And I get to live in that world today. And I just feel so grateful about it all. I'm actually grateful that I had cancer. I mean, who would have thought? I would not. There's a basic truth to this that is life-giving, and we're just really lucky. So I just count myself amongst the lucky few. I'm grateful I had the experience of cancer. I'm grateful I know so much. I'm grateful to be accepted by the community as a colleague. And I just want to do whatever I can to help more experienced, transformed patients, or in the process of transformation, experience what I get to experience on a daily basis. And so it's just wonderful. I'm so lucky. You are so lucky too.
I am. I'm lucky
Yeah.
to have met you, and that we're working on One Cancer Place and the Institute
We're
to help
changing the
others.
world, Gina.
Yeah.
Changing the world for the better, for especially for cancer patients.
I really want to thank you for taking this time to give your story and your most of all your pivoting story to us. And I really want to thank Garden Health for their support in bringing these pivoting
I
stories.
want to thank Garden Health.
Hmm.
Thank you,
Thank
Garden
you so
Health.
much, for making this possible for us, and that we can get these stories out to people so they can hear them. Yeah. So
Wonderful.
thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you for all that you do.